Let's go back to the problem we were working on. This is the problem we were making progress. The polar equation is given as r equals 2 plus 4 sine of theta. So what we want to do is we want to find the region enclosed by the inner loop of the curve. So that is about the liaison. We didn't draw the actual polar graph. Instead, we identified the region we have to integrate. So what we did was instead of r, we wrote y, and instead of theta, we wrote x. And then we got the function y equals 2 plus 4 sine of x. And we visualized this. The way explained last time was x-axis is the angle, and the y-axis indicate the distance from the origin. So when y value increases, the distance from the origin will be farther and farther. And on the other hand, when it hits the x-axis, the distance between that point in that angle and the origin becomes 0, which means at that angle, the point will pass the origin. So that basically means from here to here, it will make a big loop, and from here to here, it will make a smaller loop. So this small bump will be inside of the bigger loop. And so what we try to decide is what these angles are. We calculated that, and we found that that is 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. So this is about the small loop in the when we convert this graph into the polar graph. So what we did was we set up the equation, and then this is the starting point equation. So inner loop angle starts from 7 pi over 6 and it ends at 11 pi over 6. And then what we figured out from here was when you fold it over around 3 pi over 2, this point and this point overlapped each other. And so we calculate this part area and double it, and then we will get the answer. So from this equation, we adjusted the angle range to half. So it became 7 pi over 6 to 3 pi over 2. But we have to double the area we calculate. So this was a given equation, so we copied it. And then this is the point we stopped last time. So again, we go back to college algebra class. A plus b squared is formulated as a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, right? So that is integration 7 pi over 6 to 3 pi over 2. So that is 4 plus 4 times 2 is 16. Sine of theta plus 16 sine squared of theta d theta.
Isn't the middle term 8 sine theta? This is 4 times 2, or am I wrong?
Yeah, so 4 times 2 is 8, right? But 4 times 2 times 2 is 16, right?
Oh, never mind.
And then what we know is we cannot integrate this one directly. So we have to use the half angle formula. So that becomes 4 plus 16 sine of theta plus 16 times sine squared of theta is 1 minus cosine of 2 theta over 2 d theta. So this and this will cancel each other. So that becomes 7 pi over 6 to 3 pi over 2. So that becomes 4 plus 16 sine of theta plus like this. And then that is 8 minus 8 cosine of 2 theta. Right? So let's simplify a little bit more. We just combine these two, then we get 12 plus 16 sine of theta minus 8 cosine of 2 theta d theta. So we integrate according to theta, and so 12 theta plus. So if we integrate sine, then it becomes minus 16 cosine of theta minus 8 times sine of 2 theta over 2 from 7 pi over 6 to 3 pi over 2. So those are fairly straightforward. These will cancel each other and become 4. And then we apply these. So this one is 12. Theta is 3 pi over 2 minus 7 pi over 6 minus 16 times 3 cosine of 3 pi over 2 minus cosine of 7 pi over 6 minus 2 times sine of 2 times 3 pi over 2 minus, this is 4, right? This theta came from this one. We integrate with respect to theta. If we do it like with respect to x, then that is 12x, right? Yeah. And then sine of 2 times 7 pi over 6. So that becomes 12 times. We can rewrite that as 9 pi over 6. We just multiply 3 to the denominator and 3 to the numerator. And then 9 minus 7 will make 2 pi over 6, right? And then minus 16 times what is cosine of 3 pi over 2. This is the cosine graph. This is pi over 2. This is pi. This is 3 pi over 2. So this is 0. And we have to evaluate 7 pi over 6. This is 0. This is pi. This is 6 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 is here. And this is on the left side. So cosine is negative because x values are negative. And this is pi over 6. So what is that? Reference angle is pi over 6. The 1 to square root of 3. This is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. And for this one is here is minus here. So minus this 7 pi over 6 is minus, and so minus square root of 3 over 2 minus 4 times this one. 3 pi is 0, right? And then this becomes 3. So that becomes 7 pi over 3, right? And so we have to visualize that. This is 0, pi, 2 pi, 2 pi is 6 pi over 3, and 7 pi over 3 will go a little bit further, and reference angle will be pi over 3. And everything is positive in the first quadrant. The right triangle we are drawing is this is pi over 3, 1, 2, square root of 3. So sine is this is opposite, and this is hypotenuse. So this one is square root of 3 over 2. But there was minus, and so we will put minus here. So we have to calculate this, and so minus will make plus, and these two will cancel each other and becomes 2. So the first term will become 4 pi minus the second term. 2 and 16 will cancel each other, so minus 8 square root of 3. And then minus will make plus, and so this one and 2. So plus 2 square root of 3. And so that is 4 pi minus 6 square root of 3. Any question? You have to be careful when you're proceeding with calculation. There are minus related confusion in this problem. but calculation itself is pretty straightforward. Let's do the next problem. Find the area of the region that lies inside the first curve and outside the second curve. So r equals 10 cosine of theta and r equals 5. So what you can notice instantly is that r equals 5 in polar equation means no matter what the angle is, the distance between the origin and the point will be 5. So that means this is a circle with radius 5. And the center at the origin 0, 0. Indeed, this is a equation of a circle. Let's work on this one. We want to convert this one into the regular rectangular equation. To do that, what I will use will be r squared equals x squared plus y squared. This is a Pythagorean formula. It's just like x, y, and r, then r squared is x squared plus y squared. And we want to use r cosine of theta equals x. And so we will use these two facts to convert that equation into the rectangular equation. If we multiply by r on both sides, then r squared equals 10 cosine of theta times r. So this part is x, and this part can be written as x squared plus y squared. So x squared plus y squared equals 10x. So x squared minus 10x plus y squared equals 0. So we think about half of this, then x squared minus 10x plus 5 squared plus y squared equals 5 squared. So when we do that, that becomes x minus 5 squared plus y squared equals 5 squared. This is something you learned in college algebra. So this fit into the general equation of the circle with center 5 and radius 5. So circle with radius 5 and center 5, 0. So let's draw the circles. So this is a circle with radius 5, and this is also a circle with radius 5 with a different center. This is 5. So what the problem is saying is find the area of the region that lies inside the first circle and outside of the second circle. So second circle, this is the second, and this is the first circle. It should be inside of the first circle, but outside of the second circle. So we have to calculate the area of here. And then we have to calculate each angle. So so this is r equals 5. And this is 10 cosine of theta equals r. So at the intersection point, r are the same. So we will put 5 equals 10 cosine of theta, and then we divide by 10 on both sides. Then that is cosine of theta, which is 1/2. So we have to figure out the angle. Obviously, if you look at this, then that should be located in the first or third quadrant, or fourth quadrant. In those quadrant, cosines are positive. And then we have to think about this triangle. So this is pi/3, and 1 is adjacent. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and hypotenuse 2 is hypotenuse. So the reference angle is pi/3. So we can go with pi/3 and minus pi/3. So in this case, what we have to do is that we have to think about the differences between two circles. And before we set up the equation, what we can observe is that when you flip over here, then those will overlap to each other. And so instead of integrating from negative pi/3 to pi/3, we will calculate from 0 to pi/3. So if we apply the formula, then this is just we are thinking about the half of the region, this 2, and 1/2 is from the formula, and this circle is outside of this circle. So we will put 10 cosine theta squared minus 5 squared d theta. So these two will cancel each other, and from 0 to pi over 3, and 100 cosine square root of theta minus 25 d theta. So we want to use a simpler number. So we take out 25, then 25 times 0 to pi over 3, and 4 cosine square root of theta minus 1 d theta. $25 from 0 to pi over 3 times 4 times cosine squared is 1 plus 2 cosine of 2 theta over 2 minus 1 d theta. So this is 2. So 25 times integration 0 to pi over 3. And we distribute, then 2 plus 2 cosine of 2 theta minus 1 d theta. So this is 25 times integration 0 to pi over 3. 2 minus 1 is 1 plus 2 cosine of 2 theta d theta. So this is 25 times integration of 1 is theta plus 2. From this one, we have to divide by over 2. Sine of 2 theta from 0 to pi over 3. So this will cancel each other. So this one is 25 times pi over 3 minus 0 plus sine of 2 pi over 3 minus sine of 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So we know that sine of 0 is 0. So we have to figure out sine of pi, 2 pi over 3. So this is pi, which is 3 pi over 3. And so this one is 2 pi over 3. And then the reference angle is pi over 3. So this one is a sine. So sine is positive. So this is opposite, this is hypotenuse. And so this one will be square root of 3 over 2. Right? Because that angle is positive, and so that is the same as sine of pi over 3. So that is 25 times pi over 3 plus square root of 3 over 2. So you can end the question like this, or you can write 25 pi over 3 plus 25 square root of 3 over 2. Any question? Draw the polar graphs and establish the integral formula which calculate the area of inside the first curve and outside the second curve. The first curve is r equals 9 cosine of theta. The second curve is 4, r is 4 plus cosine of theta. So we will figure out the first one first. This is r equals 9 cosine of theta. Obviously, this is the equation of a circle. If you multiply by r on both sides, then left side becomes r squared and right side becomes r. So r squared can be fixed to x squared plus y squared. And on the right side, cosine theta r is x. So that becomes x squared minus 9x plus y squared equals 0. So we will do the completing the square. To do that, what we will do will be we write x squared minus 9x plus the constant term is missing. When that happens, we will think about the half of this number squared plus y squared. We have to do it on both sides. So 9 over 2 squared. So, and then we simplify this one as x minus 9 over 2 squared plus y squared equals 9 over 2 squared. So that is circle with center at 9/2, 0, and radius 9/2. And so that is the first one. And the next one is not a circle. That is more like a cardioid. So 4 plus cosine of x. It is not cardioid. Indeed, it is just a one-leaved rows. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pi over 2 pi 3 pi over 2 pi. So if you graph this, then this is a cosine graph, shift up 4 unit. And so the x-axis originally will shift up 4 unit and will be located here. And then others will resemble the cosine graph. Cosine graph start at the maximum, so it start here and then past the middle when that becomes pi over 2, and then minimum at pi, and past the middle at 3 pi over 2, and when that is 2 pi, that becomes the maximum. So the cosine graph looks like this. And if we graph that, then what you notice here is when angle value is 0, the y value is 5. So that means distance from the origin is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then when that is pi over 2, the distance from this is pi over 2 in angle, and distance from the origin is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4. And then when that becomes 3, the distance, pi distance is 3. So it hit -3. And when it becomes 3 pi over 2, the distance is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is -4. And then when that is 2 pi, that is 5. And so the graph will look like this. And so this one, graph of that one is this one. And the other one is a radius is 9/2, which is a 4.5. And so the other end will go twice more. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll pass at 9. And then it'll be a circle whose center is right here. And it should be pretty big circle, but I don't have enough paper, and so just a circle. So what they are asking you, this one is a graph of r equals 9 cosine of theta. And what they are asking you is figuring out this part. So it'll be like this. And so this is pi over 3, and this is minus pi over 3. You can get it by calculating. So let's actually calculate. So we will make this part and this part the same. Then that'll be 9 equals cosine of theta. That equals 4 plus cosine of theta. So if we subtract cosine theta on both sides, then it becomes 8 cosine of theta equals 4. Then we divide by 8 on both sides to get cosine of theta equals 1 over 2. So we already know 30, 60, 90-degree triangle, and this is pi over 3, 1, 2, square root of 3. This is adjacent. So the final solution will become like this. This is pi over 3, and this is negative pi over 3. And when you draw the same triangle, this is 1, 2, square root of 3, 1, 2, square root of 3. When we flip like this, so the solution for this equation is theta equals pi over 3 and minus pi over 3. Other point is cosine is positive in the first and fourth quadrant because x values are positive in those quadrants. So we are almost done. If you look at the graph, then that is symmetric along x-axis. And so it is enough to calculate the area above x-axis and then double it. So area is twice times 0 to pi over 3 and 1 over 2 r squared d theta. And then that equals 2 times integration 0 to pi over 3, 1 over 2 times 9 cosine of theta squared minus 4 plus cosine of theta squared d theta, and we cancel it out. So that becomes from 0 to pi over 3, 81 cosine squared of theta minus, this one is 16 plus 8 cosine of theta plus cosine squared of theta. So that equals integration 0 to pi over 3, and then 81 cosine squared of theta minus 16 minus 8 cosine of theta minus cosine squared of theta d theta. So that equals to 0 to pi over 3 AD cosine squared of theta minus 8 cosine of theta minus 16 d theta, and so on. So just this is the common calculation we've been doing. So you will use half angle formula for this part, and then just the calculation is pretty straightforward. And so you will finish the problem. So do you have any question? Yeah, so you will finish the calculation, and otherwise, if you don't have any question, then you can leave, and I will see you tomorrow.